you. Well, welcome to the meeting of the College Area Community Council. And it's okay. Anybody can't hear, but let me know and we'll see if we can unmute you. And let's get ready to start here. Okay. College Area Community Council, our meeting is January 22nd. Here's my one. We're borrowing facilities over here at camps, and they're generously shared everything with us. So what I'd like to do is welcome everybody to the meeting. And we have the Ventura Police Department in the audience. Back in his office, obviously. And with that, do you want to introduce folks or just start rolling? Start rolling. Okay. Let's move on into the Ventura College update. Police report. Oh, police report. My apologies. And Brown, take it away.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see you guys, especially after the break over the holiday. I hope everybody had some great time with their family. I've been keeping tabs of our crime stats through the couple of months since we've been gone. There really wasn't anything noteworthy. The mall continues to kind of dominate a lot of the statistics as far as crime. In the last 28 days, there's actually been a lot of reduction of incidents. We reduced the incidents approximately about 15 overall, and actually saw a reduction in theft related activities. A lot of that could be due to the increased patrols around the mall and so forth. A lot of it, maybe some of it could be the enhanced penalties that are now taking effect as they work their way through the California system. I will note that there was a increase in some fraud offenses, some identity theft type stuff. So make sure that you monitor your credit reports for unwanted activity. You can put fraud alerts on all the major three credit bureaus to make sure that no one is using your identity. Make sure you cover up your PINs and passwords and so forth. And I can go back to the crime stuff here at the end if anyone has any questions. I wanted to use predominantly most of my time talking kind of about emergency preparedness in light of the Hughes fire that's in Santa Clarita. As a Thomas Fire veteran, being one of the two patrol sergeants on scene, coordinating all the evacuations that night in 2017, there were a lot of takeaways that I had, and also being involved in the evacuation plan that Mac Douglas is also working in conjunction with him. I just wanted to bring up some stuff for people. VC Alert is probably one of the best things that you can subscribe to get alerts in this active area. And I'll share my screen and bring up a QR code if people want to use that. And also, I've emailed these same things to Kathy so she can disseminate that out to the group. So this QR code will take you to VC Alert. It's managed by the Sheriff's Department. So when you go to register, if you see Sheriff's Department, don't freak out. We coordinate with the Sheriff's Department. We work with them for this local area. But that can get you active alerts for anything in our area. In addition to that, there's some. I'm sorry, this is Everbridge, which goes to the VC Alert. We have. There's a link that I emailed Kathy for our evacuation plan. If you want to see our active evacuation plan at the time, you can go and see that at our website. And if you have any questions, you can email Mac Douglas, and his email address is mdouglas with two S's. That's MDOUGLASS at cityofventura.ca.gov. And if you have any questions on that, you can always email me, just brown@venturapd.org, and I can help get you in contact or in touch with Mac Douglas. Um, so, Cal Fire, you can go to Cal Fire's website and manage some of the active evacuation and mandatory zones there. Watch Duty is another popular app that a lot of people will use. That's a private entity, and then the Government Office of Emergency Services uses an app called Protect Genesis. Genesis is spelled a little bit different. It's GENASYS .com, and that's through Cal OES. So some quick takeaways that I learned, especially trying to navigate through fire areas, is one, have a plan. Two, make sure you touch base with your family and your loved ones in the area, especially your neighbors, especially if they have mobility issues. Oftentimes we have to send resources up there with people that have mobility issues. So if you know somebody that needs an ambulance or a wheelchair to get out of their residence. Oftentimes, we won't know unless somebody alerts us. We're working on identifying situations like that in our city ahead of time. But just to make sure that we don't forget anybody, if you know somebody when an evacuation order helps, please call us and let us know. Oftentimes, a lot of people will stay saying, "Hey, I'm just going to use my water hose and put it on my house and so forth." Just keep in mind something that I saw, during the Thomas Fire is your water pressure could drop. And it could drop from a number of things. One, they're using water to put the fires out, but some of the pumps are also run on electricity, and when electricity goes out, the pumps go down. You may see the city has put out generators. Even say Loma Vista and Day Road, you might have noticed a really large generator sitting on the side of the road. Those generators help to power a lot of the pump facilities, so that way water pressure remains constant during times of need. Power outages, are a real thing. So make sure you have your cell phone charged. Make sure you have a flashlight available. Have a plan to get out. Know the routes going out. Some of the routes might get blocked because of emergencies or fire or downed trees and so forth. So always know a back way out. And, just make sure if you are driving through areas, fire embers. I remember driving my police car. I'm like, I'm just going to drive through the embers. And then a fire guy told me, well, those embers can build up in the front of your car by your radiator, and then they can catch fire and catch your car on fire. And that wasn't something that I thought about during that time. So just another thing to think about. So that kind of sums up my quick debrief as far as fire emergency. Does anybody have any questions regarding the fire or any of the crime statistics? I'm sorry if you're talking like
You were just there was a shooting last week.
Any updates on the shooting at Mills in Maple?
Yes, the shooting at Mills and Maple, our detectives are actively working that. I can tell you it was gang related, and I can't give you too many details on the case because we are actively looking for somebody. But our detectives are working on it, and that appears to be an isolated incident for that area that just just caused people at the wrong place at the wrong time, and someone stopped in traffic, and yeah, that's the most I can share about that. Say again.
The question was, what gangs were involved? Were they local to Ventura? Were they from anywhere else nearby?
They're local gangs, and that's well, like I said, I don't want to say too much. That jeopardize the investigation.
So when can we get information on what gangs were involved?
When we make an arrest, we'll put out a press release at the conclusion of the investigation that will indicate what was what took place for what we can without jeopardizing the prosecution.
He was saying, is there any other information we can get at this point, or do we have to wait for that press release?
You'll have to wait for that press release. I'm in charge of the investigations as well, and my detectives are actively working on that investigation. And like I said, we are working on a named individual, so I don't want to jeopardize the investigation at the moment until that is done. If
Okay, well.
if there was any if there was any risk to the public or anything, we would put that out. But at this point, we do not believe anyone's in danger at this moment.
So, can you hear me right now?
I can now, yes.
Okay, so, I'm just curious as to why this wasn't even discussed when we were talking about the crime stats for the area. This is probably one of the biggest things that's gone on down here in quite a while.
Uh, you're right, and I'm sorry I didn't explain that to begin with. And it falls under assault offenses. And look at the assault offenses on the crime stats. It's actually less. The assault offenses have dropped. That one in particular, when I was reading through all the calls, I didn't see that. Because it's been active investigation, I normally don't talk about active investigations, but since you brought it up, I'm more than happy to explain the limited amount of information that I can.
Any other questions online?
Are you concerned about that or no?
Of course, we're concerned, but if they're not gonna give us more information, I don't know that we can badger it out of them. We'll read about it when it comes out.
This coming. Thank you for the evacuation. So, any other questions?
So we had a thank you in the room for you for the information on preparing for evacuations and the fire from
Thank
a
you.
fire veteran.
It's hard to hear. I don't think the microphone's working. So whoever's relaying the questions, I appreciate it because I can't hear on the microphone.
No, we're definitely having.
Yeah, we have some kind of a sound echo issue.
And I apologize, I can't give you more information. I'd love to tell you all about it, but unfortunately, if people that are wanted, if we put too many information out, then people that are wanted start to make different decisions, and I don't want that to happen at the moment.
Any other questions? Well, with that,
Thank you.
thank you
Okay.
for being on the show.
And I'll see you in person next month.
Do that.
Yeah, with
Okay.
better sound system.
So, have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
So Vanessa is next.
You wanna announce it?
So we'll move on to Vanessa from Winter College. So yeah, you.
I don't see her.
So Ventura College update, who's gonna do that tonight?
Vanessa was gonna be online. Is what I was told.
I don't see her here in the
I don't see her, so let's move on.
Let's move on to Maple Court Development Project update. Here, let's see.
Can you present their stuff? Yay.
You can stand at the podium and then go ahead and introduce yourselves and then you can get started from there.
trying to troubleshoot these microphones.
Eric.
I did do that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Nelson. I'm a land use and zoning attorney from the city of Los Angeles. I'm representing the applicant for the Maple Court project. I'm unfortunately for this one tonight. I'm here with architect KTGY. Represented almost 2 years ago. Just got to an update on where the project is in the process. That's about it, right. So he is going to, we sent a PDF of some slides that he was going to
show.
Can you share your screen?
Get some of the current design of the project, discussion of some of the design responses, and then I'll conclude with an update regarding where we are in the city process. And we can open up questions if that works.
Loaded up here. This is the project addresser, 255 to 290 Maple Court. Not too far from the intersection we were just talking about, that just east of Mills at Maple Street and Maple Court. The existing site, for those that aren't familiar with it, consists of 3 office buildings right now. We go to the next slide.
Sorry to interrupt, but the sound is not working.
Trying to troubleshoot as we go.
We apologize, we're having some technical difficulties. I think there was a reset when the power in this building went out, and now our system is not set up the way it normally is. So if you have a little patience with us, I appreciate it. Yes,
Yeah. Our normal sound guy's not here, so we're trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Volume of the TV. Whoever said sorry to interrupt.
This guy.
Might be working now.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. So Zoom.
It almost sounds as though you can hear well enough without the microphone. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, so I think there's a built-in microphone in the camera, and that's what we're hearing.
That's why it's stands up there.
Could you
Is this one better?
Testing.
1, 2, 3.
Can you tell the sound?
Is it TV volume off?
You can't hear the person with the mic, so I think if you start, you should see if they can hear you without the mic.
I think if you stand closer to the TV, it might. Sorry, everyone. This is a. I think there's one built into the camera.
Okay, let's.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
All right, works. I don't know if you guys can hear me any better, but I'll start over again.
Let's do his presentation.
All right, so the project is located at 255 to 280 Maple Court. You just saw the site up on the screen. It's just north of Maple Street, and just to the east of Mills. And the project was presented about 2 years ago when we were starting the design. Since then, we've gone to the Design Commission, DRC, twice now. Once and then once back with some modifications to the design. And the project is slated to go to Planning Commission next month. So the design is a mixed-use project, consists of 2 structures, a north building and a south building. You can see some of the general massing strategies located here on the screen. Here, this just describes the building forms that were created really to break up the site into not one large building, but 2 smaller structures. And the project as a whole, if we go to the next slide, we can see the overall site plan here, kind of from the aerial. It consists of the 2 buildings that I mentioned. The north building, number 1, consists of 216 units and then 134 units on the south building. Both buildings have about 2,500 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor. You can see on the bottom right corner there, when we get into the renderings, you'll see some of the commercial space that's right there on Maple Street. And then at the south end of the north building, there's also a small commercial space that's located on that linear plaza. And so the project, as it's evolved, contributed 32 affordable units. That's broken up into 20 on the north building and 12 on the south building. And those are all going to be low income units. So it's mixed income, mixed use. The project would start the development and design development, as we call it, working drawings towards construction documents later this year. And a build like this is about 24 months once it gets started. So it's probably about 4 years out for delivery from today. And then some of the changes that we made at the DRC are listed up here just to kind of track some. It's got kind of a widened linear casino that's really a public open space component between the two buildings. We changed some of the architecture from the initial design to more of a mid-century approach. And through working through the DRC comments, integrating some of the elements from that style into the building as it evolved. We can go to the next slide. Take a look at what it looks like from the street level. So the project is 4 to 5 story buildings. Consists of, in this case, the Maple Street facade, 2 levels of residential over a double height commercial space. And then as you move deeper into the project away from the street, it's 3 levels of parking, 2 levels of parking and 3 levels of units above, so 5 levels total. Zoning has a 75-foot height limit. I think we're about 12 feet under that height limit right now. So the parking consists of structured parking where all of resident and commercial parking is contained within the building. Off of Maple Court, got entrances.
People are saying it's echoey.
So no curb cuts into the project off of Maple Street. Everything's kind of come onto the project. The buildings almost sit in the same locations as the commercial buildings.
Everyone behind you. The voice doesn't carry it.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, there's basically the 4 to 5 story buildings consist of 2 to 3 levels of residential with 2 stories construction parking. You can see the commercial space at the Maple Street, Maple Court intersection. And that's about 2,500 square feet. The other building on the north side has similar size commercial space. So right around 5,000 square feet of total commercial space. And the project is slated to be completed probably in about 4 years. It takes about 2 years to build. We've got development of the drawings, post approvals of the entitlement, and then we also have plan check processing. So between 3 to 4 years, probably closer to the 4 year mark. Yeah.
When will construction start is the question.
It's about probably 18 to 24 months from now. Yeah, so really, over the last year plus, I think, I recall after our last DRC meeting, the project's really just been in city review. So that's the CEQA environmental review process, the planning review process, and the documents. We've kind of just been sitting back waiting. So not a lot's changed on our end. We've just been kind of sitting waiting. But once the project would be approved by the planning commission, the CEQA document, city council, at that point, you would be directed to begin developing more detailed drawings. Once it starts construction.
Correct. It takes quite a long time to prepare the construction drawings, the detailed construction drawings, and then to go to the city's building permit and plan check. So we're estimating that will be about 2 years, followed by 2 years of actual construction.
And then there's a question online, when will it come before planning commission again?
February 26th, 2025.
So just next month and then that's it for planning commission.
That's the planning commission hearing, and then it will be followed by a city council hearing.
Okay.
At a date to be scheduled, but it's not scheduled yet.
Like March, April.
Potentially March, April.
Can you say again what the number of units will be total?
350.
Like, I'm sorry, it's like 2 bedroom, like it's mixed sizing.
Yeah, we can share a very detailed unit mix that we have of all the studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 2 tilts in. There's a lot of bigger units on this project. The average size is about 935, which is a little bit larger. And then some of the newer, more apartment type of construction. But we think appropriate for this area because it's not all Los Angeles. This is more of a bedroom community. And it's really important to Sky Adventures to have. I mean, it's really
Are you, I know, are you going to ask the questions that are in the chat? Looks like there's a lot of questions being asked.
2 bedrooms plus it's
Are we going to be
and a lot of podium structured open space or reset open space for recreation, which is all right in 5 months. We've got some plans in the deck here we can walk through. Go to the next slide.
You said the height would be about 63 feet.
Yeah, we range between 60 and 65, and the average is about 62 and a half, 63 feet. Having trouble hearing you. Can you speak up a little more?
And we apologize.
It's the total now.
Yeah. So the further I get from the TV, the more I can.
Traffic mitigation, congestion mitigation studies.
Sure, I can speak, maybe we can let Keith get through the design, and I'm happy to talk about some of that. We'll talk a little bit about the city studies and analysis. But I think maybe if Keith can go through some of the rest of his slides regarding the design and the project details, and then we can pick up comments and answer questions the best we can.
I have a question about the height in one specific location on the south building, which I believe is building 2. The east side of that building. My understanding is that it's going to be 2 levels of parking and 2 levels of apartments above that. The planning department at the city tells me that that is a total of 24 feet, which really doesn't make sense if you divide 4 floors into 24 feet. You have each floor is 6 feet tall. That doesn't.
And that's for the 7th floor.
Yeah, there's a setback feature on the
Yes,
east side.
but what I'm asking is on that eastern edge, the 2 levels of parking, is that the 24 feet?
Yes.
And then there's nothing above that.
Then it steps back about 10 feet, and then it goes up vertically
And then it goes up
another
another.
24 feet. And then
So-
it goes back, I think, 30 feet. There's a bunch of different conditions depending on exactly where you measure from, but yeah, if you have any questions on the plan about exactly what it is at any point, we can collect those questions later and get back to you with more detailed answers. Because I don't have any dimension building sections or anything in this presentation, but we do have that, and we can get those answers for it. It's not part of this kind of general update, but yeah, generally that's the idea. It's wedding caking back. So it goes up 2 stories, steps back a few feet, goes up another 2 stories, steps back, I think about 30 feet, and then the 5th floor pops up kind of about 45 feet from the building edge.
If you can click back 2 slides to show, one more slide. The lower right-hand corner shows the massing approach for the project. The top left is kind of what the zoning compliant massing starts with. and then move to the top right, that's dividing into two volumes, which is ultimately what is being proposed, the northern building and southern building. And then it goes to the lower left-hand corner by opening up those volumes by providing some courtyards at the podium level. And then the lower right-hand corner is ultimately the project design that's being pursued, which, as Keith was mentioning, has this wedding cake terraced step back directly to the east, where we know the low density single family residential neighborhood is there. And we have the middle school is to the north or up on these slides, and then the commercial development and Middle Street to the west.
So everything that you see in this green area here and here, this is all the 24 feet in height that you were seeing. Then you have a step back. This is another 2 stories, and then the 5th floor is back here. So along Maple Court.
So this is the neighborhood and this is Maple here?
Maple Street. Yep.
Yeah.
And then this is the neighborhood back here.
So what is the ultimate setback of the units above the parking from Wesley Avenue?
Wesley right here.
From the, yes.
Probably about 160 feet.
So at DRC, there was discussion about what the ratio would be for height to distance of setback. What was that settled? How was that settled?
That was a request made by the DRC, and we considered it, but we also believe that this stepping back, kind of language of the building adequately provides relief, far exceeds the code setback requirements, but was also really thoughtfully designed to have the least amount of building on the eastern portion of the site. And so while we have incorporated a number of other DRC suggestions, we did not adjust that setback on that eastern
Did
side.
it go back to DRC after you made these changes?
No, DRC took a final action to recommend approval of the project subject to, but they provided comments that they asked the applicant to consider.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it consists of various setback dimensions. I think we start at 5 feet here. This portion is set back a little over 10 feet, 15 feet, and then 5 feet at the very northern end. And then anywhere there's courtyards, obviously is quite a bit more than that. But generally, we've tried to orient courtyards in each direction so that you don't have one main building facade running the full length. It's always broken up with courtyards on each of these sides, either the east or the south.
Sound that way into the neighborhood?
What's that?
Wouldn't this project the sound back into the neighborhoods right here with the courtyard and that?
No, most of the sound would be directed here into the courtyard. You know, the noise.
Seems like it could come this way from an acoustic standpoint.
Yeah,
These are
that's
going to
something
be
that
passive areas, no implied sounds, just planters, seating areas.
Public areas.
Public to the residents, not public
Right,
to
right.
members of.
So
general
people gathering, talking, doing things, yeah.
But, not, no commercial uses, no, open to the public, areas there.
What kind of commercial, people or businesses do you envision?
Envision kind of a range of uses that could potentially go here, ranging from a co-working space that may be available for use both by residents, but also members of the public. And these are pretty small commercial spaces, about 2,500 square feet. The one closer to Maple Street might be more appropriate for a cafe or small retail use, whereas one that's kind of deeper inside may be more appropriate for a co-working or small office or a boutique professional office there. But again, since they're not going to be particularly sizable, we don't expect it to be, a large busy restaurant or anything like that, or a large office component. So going to be more neighborhood scale.
Yeah, I think I might have fixed the microphone. If you can hear me really, really clearly online, you could just type it in the chat, then I'll know if it's fixed. You guys can keep going. I'm just watching the chat.
Okay.
I want to try this one chunk. Hopefully we're fixed.
They can't tell, they can hear us if we're not talking.
Okay, we can fast forward a few slides to the next rendering that you're about to look at. Yeah, this slide. So this just gives you an internal view of the project. This is there at that roundabout in Mapleport, kind of at the end of that cul-de-sac where there's some surface parking in the middle. This is just the gap between the two buildings. It's going to have stormwater planters and room for public open space. This is probably the more active area of the project where you've got the resident lobby and leasing office of building 2 on the right, and then the commercial space that Tom was referring to over there on the left. That commercial space may be co-working, it may be daycare for residents and folks in the general vicinity of the project. But again, still to be determined, we're many years out before that would be completed and ready for leasing, but that's kind of the idea. That it would be neighborhood serving commercial space. Next slide.
Yes.
Yeah, and then here's the view along Maple Street. This is giving you an idea of the various building masses that have been broken up into the different sections. We've got the 2-story townhomes there in the middle, and then up on the level above those townhomes, there's 2 more levels right along the street, and then the other unit as it steps back is on the 5th floor. The idea was really to make the frontage really integrated with the pedestrian experience. So each of these units have direct access entries off of the Maple Street sidewalk. We see some of those folks they're on patios, kind of a semi-private patio space right behind the back of the sidewalk. And then on the far left of the image, that's the commercial space of building 2. Next slide. And this gives you like an overview of the project where you can see buildings 1, 2, the cul-de-sac, the general building form as it takes shape here. Next slide. And then I'll go through some of these 2-dimensional flat elevations that we created as well for the project, which really give you an idea of some of the building heights here, ranging from the 2-story components that are 24 feet up to just over 60 feet.
Wow.
And then the materials on the project are a range of, there's some brick at the lower level, there's different colored stuccos, different colored fiber cement panels with various textures, smooth, rake textures for some shadow lines and things like that. The idea was really to get some horizontality to each of the residential floors and have floor to ceiling glass windows for good natural light and to kind of maintain the mid-century architectural character of the project. We can go to the next one. This was the south elevation. This is on the bottom here, you see the elevation kind of capturing the view from Mapleport as you're coming up from Maple Street on the right, and then the northern end there on the left. Next slide. And then on the top here, this is the south elevation of building 1. So this is what's going to be facing that cul-de-sac when you get up there. Also aligned with 2-story townhomes at this level, and then the commercial space kind of right there in the middle with the arches there. Everything that's commercial always has that same architectural style and tie it all back together. Kind of made a distinction about what's commercial versus residential. And next slide. And then lastly, the east elevation of building 1. This is near the middle school, facing the neighborhood of the bottom here. The ghosted area is the part of the building that's set back, almost 100 feet from the building edge. The components that come forward on either side of the courtyard, those are both about 68 feet wide. The building sections that are 4 stories tall. And then this one. And then some of those materials that are here on this sheet kind of depict some of those textures, building colors, some of the willow tile, the thin brick that's going to be applied on the project, and then fluted corrugated metal panels as well. Next slide. And then this is an overview of some of the landscape concepts that depict where some of these activities are happening. I know the question came up about acoustics earlier. We imagine the pool decks are kind of the active, more loud spaces where everyone's kind of going to recreate with friends and family, and you're going to get noise in those corridors. So we've intentionally placed those spaces in the internal south-facing courtyards. One south face for daylighting, of course, we're adding daylighting into the pool decks to make them usable, but also they're kind of in that south-facing C-shaped courtyard that's going to really kind of focus that sound energy down towards the public street and away from the neighborhood. The courtyards that are on the east side, we imagine those as kind of like a quiet sitting garden. It has a couple chairs or a bench for somebody to work outside their apartment, or to read a book outside, but they're not really programmed with the grills and the pool and the spa and that kind of stuff where the more active uses are happening. And then on the next few slides, we've got some enlargements of the various program elements here. This is just the ground floor, which gives you an idea of how that central paseo is landscaped. It's got a series of hardscaping and tree planters. You get some tree canopy for shade and then cut down the heat gain there. And then trees kind of along the perimeter where possible, just to create some shadow and just some breakup of the facade along all these edges. And then the next slide, this gives you an idea of that at a larger scale in terms of the hard paving and then some of the linear hardscape materials that are running through there. That buffer on the right side, that's essentially a 26-foot wide fire line. And then it does widen as you get up to building 1 on the north, pulls away a little bit more than that. So there's no car traffic on that street. Maybe some residents will walk back there, but it's really there for fire access. It's all hardscape. It's going to be gated so that no one can drive through there except for the fire department when they need access. And next. And then these are just some of the blow-ups of the 3rd floor courtyards that are up there on that podium deck. You see the 3 on the northern building and 2 on the southern one. If we go to the next slide, we've just got some of the blow-ups of these. Again, full courtyard all the way on the south-facing court on the west, and then the more passive courtyards in the center. Next slide. So building 2, down starting off Maple Street, that's the full courtyard for this building. Both of these buildings can function completely independently, like they all have the same amenities. So you don't need to go to another building to utilize a certain amenity. They'll all be essentially paired equally with the same level of amenities and services that both. And on the next slide, the last one. So really, that gives you an overview of kind of where we're at in the design process. It's a conceptual design. It's going to go to Planning Commission next month, and they'll hear about the concept of the project, the CEQA document, which Todd can speak a little bit more to now in terms of that process and how that's gone through the city review so far. And then after city council, then if it gets approved, we would start more detailed development drawings for the project.
I have a question here from an online person. How much taller are the proposed buildings than the existing structures that are on the property?
You recall the exact?
Not the exact, I believe it's 3 stories.
They're about 45 feet, I think. I think we're about 16 to 18 feet taller than those structures. They're commercial buildings that have a taller floor plate. And then they've got a pitched roof that goes up and gives it some additional height with some mansard slope roofs around the perimeter. So at the end of the day, even though we're 5 stories, we're not, 40 feet taller than those. We're, I think, under 20 feet taller.
And this is another setback question. How much closer to the houses behind on Wesley will they be than the current structures?
I believe that they should be a few feet further back, but all the setback that's required by zoning is, I believe, 10 feet. Our structures are about 30 feet. The dimension varies. In some cases, it's closer to 40, but generally we're like 28 to 30 feet for most of that eastern section. I think the existing building is probably around 20 feet. So I think in every case, we're further set back from those buildings.
Which is good because you're a bit taller.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope they heard that online. Others. Oh, and one question was, will there be any for sale units or are they all rental?
Everything will be rental, some market rate, some affordable,
But all rental.
but all rental. Yeah, I think I saw one of the other questions there, which was, is it still 350 units? The answer is yes. In terms of how many people will be allowed per unit, that's something I guess through the leasing process would have to be determined.
The different size units.
Occupancies, because studio, in many cases, you might have 1 person, in some cases 2. But I don't know if there's any limitations on occupancy unless they're affordable, which stipulates how many people can be in that affordable unit.
Do you have a count of how many studio, how many 1-bedroom, how many 2-bedroom, and so on?
Yeah, we do. It's a pretty detailed matrix with various numbers, but it can be shared. I can pull it up.
Okay. Okay, and then parking spaces. How many parking spaces for the 350?
500. Yeah, it's
100 parking?
500.
Okay, we'll be happy with that.
That's for the commercial and the residential?
That's correct. Yeah, everything about it.
One of my biggest concerns on the parking is, you can see what's going on at Buenaventura Gardens, where there's cars parked all over the place. I mean, coming up Redwood. That's the last thing I want to see in that neighborhood is just more street parking.
And it's also all coming up on Chapel Drive
Yeah.
now too. So the whole neighborhood is impacted by these overflow vehicles just from Buenaventura Gardens because they don't have enough.
Right. We're going to be seeing it from now the other direction, quite possibly.
Understood. The project is providing about 100 spaces over what code requires, taking consideration.
Well, Coach Mo, I mean, it's what's good for the neighborhood.
Can you use the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. You want me to repeat that? Yeah. The proposed parking count of 500 spaces does take into consideration parking related concerns that the applicant team heard during the initial outreach, prior presentations to community groups and stakeholders. The project at 500 spaces is approximately 100 spaces over what's required by code.
Which isn't to say that the code makes any sense.
Trust me, it's always challenging to figure out good.
Is it correct that the affordable units could be given priority to people who have fewer cars?
No,
Could you repeat that question?
Oh, okay. Let me know if I.
Sure.
If the restricted affordable units could be given in priority order to people who do not have cars.
Yeah, or who are limited in the number of vehicles?
No, there's no direct correlation between vehicle ownership or vehicle usage and the restricted units. But under current state laws, all housing projects now need to offer parking separately from their units. So if there's a tenant moving in who has one car, they would want one space. They would wish to seat one space. If a family is moving in with an older, child they have 3 cars, they would be able to request and seat 3 cars. If there's somebody who only bikes and buses and doesn't have a car, they get to save and not pay an additional fee on top of rent to pay for a parking space because they don't anticipate using one. If it changes later, they go back to building management, say, next time I'm up, next month, I would like to start paying for a space. I have a job that I need to drive for. So there's kind of state mandated flexibility built into all housing projects right now regarding parking.
Thank you.
Are there going to be any 3-bedroom units?
It's 2 plus den, 2-bedroom plus dens, but not necessarily a true 3-bedroom.
Okay, but that's sort of, we've been discussing in the community how we're not building enough units for families, which would normally be probably 3 bedrooms, sometimes 2, but frequently 3.
I think Keith had kind of touched on that earlier, that this project was intentionally designed to have a healthy mix of 2 and 2+ bedroom units. Many other venture projects coming online or being proposed right now are very heavily skewed towards singles and dwellings, which you're correct. It provides a bit of a shortfall for families who are looking to move to a new location. So 3-bedroom, the 2 bedrooms plus a den will allow additional living space and flexibility. That den could be a bedroom. It's just not mandated to be or specifically designed to be only that. Yes.
Is there a traffic mitigation plan? I think the gentleman over here mentioned that, but how are they going to funnel those cars in and out of that?
I would like to add something to that before you answer. And you can see the theme of a lot of these questions is about congestion. Mills has gone just crazy in the last 5 or 6 years. It's worse than Victoria at this point. It's very small, very congested, high-speed traffic moving up and down. I saw today it was backed up almost all the way to Telegraph, trying to go south. So we're going to add this mix of stuff, this congestion, these amount of cars and these people into an area that's, the streets are very small. I mean, they even have a bus stop on Mills where one of the lanes is completely taken up when the bus stops there. So what kind of traffic mitigation are you guys looking at here? Because this is going to really impact the neighborhood.
Sure. So this kind of segues into what I mentioned before, that really the long spell of time between our last presentation to this council and tonight has been spent by the city undertaking the environmental review process for this project under state law, the California Environmental Quality Act, as well as local standards and requirements. So the topic of traffic has been studied extensively under the California Environmental Quality Act. The threshold for determining whether there are impacts are really focused on whether the project is going to result in geometric hazards, which is a statutory term, but it talks about whether the driveways in and out of the project and the relationship of pedestrian facilities and bike facilities and vehicle facilities are going to create direct conflicts. And separately, whether the project is going to result in an increase in vehicle miles traveled. The state of California has spoken and says that the most important thing to be concerned about for traffic is whether people are spending more time in their cars and generating more greenhouse gas. So under state law, you don't look at congestion. You just look at how far people are driving between their work and their place where they reside. Under the city's requirements, general plan policies and the Public Works Transportation Division, they look at congestion. They prepared an extensive traffic study that looked at local street capacities, the driveways. Hold on just one second. And those findings are going to be presented to the Planning Commission with one required condition regarding the restriping of Maple Court to allow a dedicated right turn out lane and a consideration to explore traffic calming measures, potentially including speed bumps in the vicinity of the project. That is leading up to the February 26th Planning Commission meeting. That is something for the Planning Commission to consider implementation of those types of mitigation.
I read that traffic study and it was totally inadequate. It completely left off one street in the neighborhood, Chapel Drive. It's not even identified on the maps in the traffic study. It also, when they were doing traffic counts, they counted a segment of Dean Drive between Ashwood and Flower, which is a 1 block stretch up near the park. They did not count any traffic on Dean Drive between College and Mills Road, which is where Buenaventura Gardens and Lowe's are. So, I mean, how can they be claiming that they have a traffic study completed that is so obviously inadequate? It did not address the traffic.
Well, people do regularly use those areas for a cut through to get away from Mills. They come through, they come up Dean Drive, they come up Redwood, they come up College to avoid going up Mills. This is going to make things even worse.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's ever been addressed. And, you know, hiding behind the new state laws that are allowing more building but less parking, I mean, that's not really looking out for the interests of our neighborhood.
Appreciate the comments. I would like to note that we are exceeding code requirements and state law
But again,
requirements.
hiding behind code and state laws and not looking at what people in the area would like to see.
We appreciate your comments and thank you very much. And you can also, the Planning Commission meeting on February 26th is another opportunity for folks to participate in the dialogue.
You haven't even gotten to the question of what happens when there's a real emergency. When there's a fire like there just was in Pacific Palisades and Altadena. What happens when you only have one way into that project on a cul-de-sac and one way out on the same cul-de-sac? There is no other entrance or exit from that property other than Maple Court. And how are you going to get 350 people out of there in an emergency along with everybody else in the surrounding neighborhood? I mean, I don't see how you can put that many apartments in a cul-de-sac. I mean, that's what it is. There's one way in, one way out. And talk to the people in Pacific Palisades whose homes burned down.
I know.
Yeah.
And to your point, the area of Maple Court was extensively studied in the traffic study. There's parking restrictions going to be implemented as part of this project, as well as the dedicated right turn lane. Those topics of ingress and egress and protecting and preserving safety was a key topic in the city study.
And a joke of a traffic study.
That's, the question you had is a good question for Matt Douglas that Commander Brown suggested. I'll put his email address in the notes. Be sure that you're on our list. before you leave tonight. So you can contact him and ask him about an evacuation plan for that location, for that area. And then your question, the state did a switcheroo. We used to gauge traffic by level of service, and they changed it to vehicle miles traveled, what, 5 years ago?
That's right.
Ish. So it totally
Yeah, during the
changes
pandemic,
the
yeah.
calculation.
Yeah, sure.
You start.
I think
Is there more?
they're the only
Questions?
real, that I saw a bunch of questions popping up, but I haven't been doing a good
Yeah,
job of
let me
remembering them.
see.
Really, the only other logistical point that I wanted to mention was just to make sure that everyone knows about the February 26th Planning Commission hearing is going to be a recommending action to the City Council. So this project is on its way to City Council automatically, but we don't have the date of the City Council hearing scheduled yet.
Do you have an estimate of the least expensive and the most expensive offered? I don't want details on all that, but, you know, price range of you're gonna go for.
We don't know what the non-affordable units are going to be. I mean, candidly, 4 years from now, given economic uncertainty, and when this project is actually going to start, it's going to be difficult to pick that. We do know kind of the baseline of what the affordable units are going to be right now. They're going to, based on current city county income limits, the low income restricted affordable units are going to be about 1,500 to 2,100, depending on the unit type. But for the market rate units, we can't accurately predict. Honestly, since the project was proposed 3 years ago, kind of everything has been updated.
Somebody had a good point here. Emergency vehicles use Mills Road constantly to reach the hospitals. So is there something that has been planned for Mills Road to deal with the emergency vehicle?
This project, as I mentioned earlier, there's a recommendation from the city's traffic study to consider traffic calming measures, but that's looking at Maple Street and some of the residential streets, not Mills Road. So there's no specific recommendation that I'm aware of that would address Mills Road in connection with this project. And again, that may be a question for the Planning Commission / City Council.
You guys are aware that that's a main feeder to the regional trauma center, right?
Yes, it's a main arterial for much of the city.
Well, but to the regional trauma center, everyone goes there.
Well, yeah, those hospitals are up on Loma Vista, so yeah, it's well traveled by emergency vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay, bicycle safety. You mentioned speed bumps, so you addressed that question. Any, so the bicycle safety question, any features being discussed to improve bicycle safety on Maple?
No, as I mentioned earlier, the city study of geometric hazards included just making sure that sidewalk and street interfaces are going to be to city standards. ADA ramps will be provided, but no plan for bike lanes were identified. The project will provide bike parking in compliance with city requirements, but we have not been asked to perform any bicycle infrastructure improvements. I suspect if such improvements were desired, that potentially take away roadway width, that could present a set of competing concerns for Maple and surrounding streets for driving.
It's always a balancing act. I think I've got
Another question about the parking. Has there been any consideration of some making an arrangement with Ventura Mall, do you have access to the parking somewhere?
There, to my knowledge, there's not been discussion of that. I know that the future of the mall was a little.
I believe the owner of the lane had reached out to the mall owner to discuss that opportunity. I don't know if they ever got a return call or that conversation, but I thought they did attempt to engage in that conversation.
Right, and I don't think that they that because again, I think the plans for the mall and potential redevelopment of the mall have been stewing for some time. So that may have part of the calculation.
Any other questions? Any more questions from the online folks? Did we miss anything?
There's one question over here.
I assume that when investors together to a project, looking at a profitability based on this property. So I'm assuming that 300 units were based principally not on actually no profit. So that as long as it fits the city's code, you're going to get as many as you can, make it a profitable venture. And I guess the question is, say at 200, would that be a profitable venture?
I'm not the owner or the investor in the project, but I can guess that if 350 units is the proposed and contemplated density for this site, the 200 unit project would likely not be feasible.
Can you repeat the question so that the people?
Oh, I'm sorry. The question was regarding the economic assumptions of the project, and if the currently proposed 350 unit project is what's before us. I was asked for my opinion as to whether a 200 unit project may be feasible. I opined that while not an owner or investor or even financially astute on these matters, I would hazard a guess that it likely.
Wouldn't that be the goal of anyone? The investor in this project to make it profitable.
Yes.
So that they must have decided that make it profitable this long phase. Yeah.
I believe that would certainly be a consideration. Again, we're talking about, for the folks who can't hear the question, I'm talking about the assumptions of going into developing the project and achieving profitability. I think many of the other considerations were also considered as well. Some things we had talked about, including a unit mix that may attract larger families, having a variety of unit types to attract a diverse array of tenant groups, providing more parking than just the bare foot minimum so that people don't face a challenge in obtaining a parking spot, providing some amenities, and candidly having a design that some of the attributes that you described would hopefully be attractive to a tenant population. All of those would also be ingredients to trying to achieve a successful project, both financially and also one that people want to move to and stay at. Hopefully.
Any more online questions, online folks? I'm not sure about this question. Any chance that the project will be delayed beyond 2 years before you start?
Again, I'm not an owner or an investor, but there's always a chance that things can go a little faster. There's probably a greater chance that things can go a little slower.
I think people are concerned because they have offices in the existing buildings. And I think the the people there were given a 2-year lease a year ago, so they've got 1 more year. And so you figure that will be the end of the offering short-term leases to the existing tenants.
Of course, I can't quite speak to that, but
Okay.
you know, ultimately that is always a challenge in operating a property while planning for redevelopment. I'm not privy to the details of the existing leases there, but moving to a short-term lease structure, shorter term lease structure as a project towards approval.
Yeah, I think that was done last year, I believe, for shorter period, 2 years instead of 5 or whatever they. So if you get started on the timetable that you mentioned tonight, then that should be it. They should be looking for new offer space.
Or talk to the landlord and see if they. My client will have the most up-to-date information as to kind of what, and rent rolls can sometimes change as well. Some tenants may want a 6-month lease as opposed to being locked into a 5-year lease.
Well, right, but I think the question here is, when will they have to move?
Unfortunately, I don't have detailed responses to that.
Great, thank you.
There was another question too, right after that.
Underground parking.
Oh. Was underground parking explored as a way to reduce the height?
Could you repeat the question?
The question was underground parking considered as a strategy to potentially reduce the height? The parking actually is semi-subterranean. There's going to be grading done at the property, but it's due to elevated water tables in the area following the preparation of the soils report for the project and the percolation tests to see how stormwater gets handled on the site. We are, how far down we're going down.
It goes down to about 5 feet to the
5 or 6
finished floor of the garage, so 5 or 6 feet, 7 feet to the underside of the base.
But bringing an entire level underground was going to, trigger some pretty. It's an over 5-acre site, so to do dewatering across that entire site was going to be quite extensive. Raise some stormwater and water quality challenges.
Yeah, I think I've gotten most of it. Yeah. I think that's it. Mine, anyone else?
Thank you.
Meeting is that night too, so we're gonna have another collision.
We're after.
Yeah. Request to be first on their agenda so that we can come to the planning commission.
That means it's on.
It's on.
That means it's turned on.
Now it's green on. Red is bad.
Yeah. This one and the white one will work. These two.
No.
Should be.
That's what we can.
Should be working now.
Very wonderful. And the Zoom participants here. Are they saying? Yeah.
Yes.
We got a yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
We were going to have a brainstorming session
tonight to get input from you about the future of the organization. Issues we're curious about, but our presentation was run over, I think for good reason. We feel like the smoke may have affected our attendance to some degree. And all that, along with our technical challenges, we decided to delay the brainstorming for another time because we really want to give it the attention that it deserves. So we're going to go on to our announcements. Right? Well, great. And the treasurer's report.
All right. I'm off to the side of the camera so you guys can't see me but over in emergency. And now we have 2 working microphones. So my name is Eric Rosenberg, if you don't know me. I'm the treasurer. We have, I try to do a report about quarterly. So our annual budget is about $2,000. Last year, we unfortunately went over, so we had a little carryover. The biggest uses of our funds are insurance, paying for Zoom, and in the future, paying for our website. So far, that's been donated by our president, Barbara, who is out sick tonight. But I bring up what our budget is because we don't have enough cash to make it through the next set of insurance payments. So if you are September, so we have a ways to go. We're fine for right now. But if you're feeling generous and would like to donate, you can find links at caccventura.org. If you Google CACC Ventura, you'll find our website. There's donation links there. We appreciate your support. There's also an address on there to a PO box that I check about once a month. So if you write a check and it's not cashed for 3 weeks, don't worry, I'll still be getting it to the safe place. But we all appreciate your support.
What would that amount be due in September, so we have like a kind of a bullseye?
Well, I think most of us know that insurance prices are a little bit of a moving target right now. I know that for the previous year, our bill was around $1,500 for the entire year, including our director's coverage as well as the organizational coverage. So, you know, that's why we have a budget of $2,000 to kind of roll the cost of Zoom and that together. You know, and if you break it down, you know, if we could raise $300 a month, we would be in the pink. So, you know, it's kind of like when you listen to NPR and they are constantly asking you for your donations. Well, we're not going to do that. I promise you that. However, we are looking forward to more success in our organization. We've had some wonderful successes with the Skyline project. We've done some gleaning projects, and part of the brainstorming was to kind of generate other ideas about what we'd like to do. And you do know that if we do want to do something different, funds are required. There's nothing that we're going to be able to do for free. We are a registered 501c3 organization, so any contributions that you make are tax deductible. But building on our community with our funds and with our talents as well as with our treasure is really important. And if you have a way to make a contribution to the organization, I think it would be very worthwhile.
And about how many members do we don't have formal membership, I know that. But what's the average of how many people on average do we have attend both in Zoom and here? That would just be like for 1 month. Unless you want to also say about how many members have come at least once during the whole year.
Well, for tonight, I can say I counted up. We had 13 in the room and 13 connected online.
Okay.
So more than 25 people. I had to subtract out this computer.
Okay.
But so 26 participants today. We have an ebb and flow depending on what's going on. I guess some meetings are, we'll have something more exciting like the Maple Court project, like that draws more people because it affects a lot of us. Some meetings we have people from the YMCA, we have people from our local government. So depending on who we have, we sometimes have higher attendance or a little bit lower, but I'd say that's pretty average, about 20.
I was just thinking 25, an average times 10 is 250, maybe $1,500. I was trying to.
You're trying to do the math.
Yeah, I was trying to think, what would be a true,
Yeah, so we have
donation for each of us if we wanted to at least know that much?
Sure, I guess our, in the last year, our smallest donation, I think, was $20. A handful of people did that. We had a few donations over 100 and a few even went over about 250 or so. That was about near the top of what we got.
But
But
anyway, $50.
$50 is a generous donation and the organization would truly appreciate it.
And
whatever anyone,
and we'll take care of the insurance.
Whatever
That would
anyone-
help a lot.
Okay, that's
whatever
what I was
anyone,
after.
Great.
so whatever anyone feels comfortable they afford, hopefully they get value out of our meetings. We have 10 meetings a year. So if we can raise, as we can do the math on one, Dean is faster at that than me, that we could figure out about what we need to earn per meeting. We know January we're probably going to get a little bit less, but there's times of the year. Tax returns are big tax refunds might be coming your way. Maybe you want to share part of it. That's all from the treasurer's report. Thank you.
And we were going to thank Mike Johnson for his work on city council, but failed to appear. So we'll have to get him next time.
Yeah.
Not sure he's back from his trip.
He said he'd be here, so
Okay.
something came up.
And Dana mentioned the gleaning in 2023. We had a gleaning for those of you who weren't here or weren't familiar with that project. Basically, we asked neighbors to pick fruit from the trees in their own yards and to bring them to the college on a given Saturday. And we worked with a nonprofit, Food Forward, to make sure that fruit got to people who needed it. In fact, a lot of it went to the food pantry here on campus. We weren't able to do that last year because there was a fruit fly quarantine, and we feel like that has been lifted. So we just wanted to give you a heads up that we're going to do that meeting again, and that the tentative date is March 8th, Saturday, March 8th. So we'll be making a presentation next month to give you all the details, let you know how you participate in that. We hope you all have fruit trees in your yard. So many people do.
Do you have any idea when we might do the next donations for the food pantry for the college, like we did in October? Like twice a year?
Probably October again. Now, we may invite people to bring canned goods with fruit if they have it, right? And it's kind of put the two together. Right? Canned fruit, right? Canned fruit, exactly. If you don't have a tree, bring some canned goods.
Okay, we could combine that then.
Combine them.
Okay.
And we just decided as a community, we're gonna combine it, the next food drive is gonna be March 8th.
Right.
And I believe up next is our new city council person, Ryyn Schumacher.
I'm going to use the podium here. Hello, everybody. My name is Ryyn Schumacher. I'm the new city council member for District 3. Happy New Year, everybody. I think I haven't seen you all since October, so this is great. I love being part of the community. We have a lot of things happening in the city council, and I will tell you that I am overwhelmed. It's all brand new, and Councilmember Mangoni and I we always say that we're kind of drinking out of a fire hose because it's all Not only did we get a chance to onboard with the city manager and the city attorney, we also got a chance to visit some of the facilities, which is really fantastic to start off your term in that manner. And so really just making sure that we, meet the staff. And I'm going to tell you right now that a lot of the staff that we have in Ventura are incredibly passionate and incredibly knowledgeable in the work that they do, and they give every day for Ventura. So I'm really proud to announce that to you all, and I'm sure you already know many of them as they are our neighbors. Last council meeting, we had 2 council meetings already last Tuesday, the Tuesday before that, and then we're going to have another one this coming Tuesday. So yesterday we talked a few things. Staff gave us an update on some of our city goals. Thankfully, we're doing actually pretty well on those. There is a reprioritization of those goals on February 1st. So we're kind of putting away those goals because we've pretty much accomplished many of them already. I say we because I want to say that I wasn't part of that at the very bitter end. But we are reprioritizing our goals. And this time around, please be there on February 1st. It's going to be at the city council. I think there's going to be a room there. I'll send out a formal kind of invitation to Kathy and them so everybody gets it. But this time around, we're actually, instead of doing yearly goals, we're going to do every 2 years. So that's going to start this year. So you may want to be involved in those conversations now, so that way you have a chance to be able to voice out what you support for the next 2 years. So I invite you all to come. The other thing too is that we got an update on our housing element. So that's actually doing really well as well. A lot of the, there was no reprioritization last night. It was just really just presenting where we were at, and we still have a lot of work to do. As you all kind of have seen on the news, Governor Newsom came out with his study that we are 13% behind on our development of housing. And so part of the housing element is just to kind of generate a lot more way for us to be able to get to accomplish some of the goals that we have already set. So one of the big contentious things that we discussed yesterday was the foul weather shelter. There we were trying, well, we did increase the number of beds from 20 beds to 40 beds. River Community Church is currently our operator for that. So, but when the staff isn't talking to the operators and then we just kind of tell them that we're increasing the beds, it makes it difficult. So then River Community Church came back and said, hey, we can't take that on with that in funding. And so now they're actually working through it. My concern though is that I did voice out that there may be a conflict of interest that I want to make sure that we don't have, given that River Community Church is pretty much writing their own job description, right? And so if I was an organization and I was kind of coming in and trying to apply for these funds, I would feel some kind of way knowing that I may not have the same kind of chance. So I did voice that out last night, and the city attorney reassured me that there's going to be a process, very fair process in which organizations are going to be reviewed.
Just real quick.
Yeah,
so
please.
When you say reviewed, are you saying that they're not like opening up a bid to be the operator for that, or is that what you're saying?
They will. Yeah.
Oh, so they're going to open up a bidding process
Yes.
to be the operator of the foul weather shelter.
Yes.
So that it's just not one organization that has continuing control over that.
Yeah. Well, right now it may be River Community Church. They may be able to expand from 20 to 40, but then the other another organization could also take on. So it would be 2. Yes. That
And
is
are you
also
going to make the rules there? For the okay, so who's going to make the rules that you suggest?
So it's the housing committee is on.
Oh, the housing.
Yeah.
committee.
So we established we established that.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. So Carol asked that who's going to be making the rules for to make sure that there is no conflict of interest, and it is going to be the housing and homeless committee that's going to. I'm sorry, not the housing. It's the services department. the owner loans. And they're
That's that, or?
That's that.
That's that,
Yes.
okay.
So, and then the other thing that we discussed is water cure. There's two things about water cure. As you know, it's pretty, it's an enormous project. And I have a lot of questions when things are being presented to me when they're asking for more money. And so one of the things that one the projects is that communication and outreach contract, where so I'm a PIO, and that's my day job, and they're asking for $476,000 to be able to have a communication and outreach contract to take on a consultant. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is that communications is a huge problem here in the city of Ventura. I think it would be I think Ventura, as some of the departments, and if we invest more in communications, I absolutely think there's going to be a lot more community buy-in, a lot more people know exactly what the projects are coming through, and a lot more people know what's happening in the city of Ventura. The problem is that I don't think it costs $476,000. So that was where I had some contention on, we did have a very robust conversation in regards to that. And a lot of it is not to exceed that amount now and to make sure that the staff is going to work hard to hopefully, fingers crossed, to keep those costs down. And the big one too is that the membrane bioreactor ultraviolet light. I know this is very fascinating stuff, guys. So basically, there was a project that was supposed to be in one site, and then staff found that it would be saving a few more, actually $50 million, to move it to a different site. And while that is pretty wonderful, that is potential savings. And so I had some worry about the potential side, given that every time we hear from water cure, there's always something else. So that was one of the few concerns that I had, and just know that we had to increase the design contract as well as the construction contract to make sure that the new site is now where we want it. Have to pay those costs. And then just finally, Main Street moves. I know everybody's kind of heard that on the news that a judge has already put out a 16-page tentative decision that what he ruled was that it was for the city, concluding that what we did was actually within our discretion. So thankfully, that means we won. I mean, it kind of put a damper on the open the Main Street moves lawsuits, and then the final decision will be happening next Tuesday for Main Street. I'd like to hear all the arguments, or if you would like to be heard, please send your letter of support or your letter, or even attend on January 28th. And then we will be deciding whether it's going to go as a vehicle code or the pedestrian law. Any questions? Yes.
Where is the warming shelter right now?
The foul weather shelter, you mean? It's with River Community Church.
But which location?
Oh gosh, I believe I can't remember the street name.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's where?
It's near downtown, but she's looking at it. She's beautiful. Gonna pull up the address. Thank you.
And the other thing you mentioned, communication. I read the Ventura paper every day. I might be the one. There is never any coverage about city council.
No.
Is there any way, maybe even publishing the agenda the day before, trying to get a reporter to go and write an article? Why can that not happen?
So the question is why isn't there any coverage of city council meetings? I couldn't answer that for you. That would be a question for reporters. Maybe nothing was really of interest to them that they want to report on, but I do, we have the agenda out about 7 days before the actual meeting, so you can take a read at the agenda. Every meeting is recorded, and so you'll see the whole discussion if you want to sit on kitchen table and watch a YouTube channel for 5 hours. That's
It is that I think people would like a summary.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And has anybody from the city council reached out to the Star?
Sure, I can actually suggest that to them. Absolutely. We do that.
They don't have the staffing. They used to have a dedicated reporter that came to city council every time there was a meeting. And that doesn't happen for years.
Yeah.
Could a city council member write a letter to the editor on a weekly basis? These are the 5 things that we talked about. That we saying yes, political.
Very creative idea.
Yeah,
That's good.
I would try to find that time. I will.
Well, divide it up between.
Yeah. No, I like that idea.
It would be nice to have a summary.
That's good.
We do get a summary from the staff, so I can take some of the things that they say and then kind of.
Like, it would just be a form letter, and just push it through. That's a wonderfully creative idea.
It's a great idea.
It's if the videos go to YouTube or Zoom does an AI summary transcription, but it's even better plugging a YouTube link into certain AIs. It'll give you a full summary in about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Another idea.
Sorry, the comment was that we would like to see a summary of the city council, and we suggested that we could say to summarize the meeting.
Don't have to.
Yes, sir.
A small synopsis, if you will.
Please.
Just like real quick, down and dirty, something very quick. No one wants to sit in on YouTube for the full meeting. I do, but
I don't even think they want a whole synopsis like that, just the high points.
Highlights.
Just highlights. Okay, that's right.
Got it. Thank you. Please.
We used to have Arlene Martinez that reported every city council member. She was a member of the Star, and just a marvelous one. And I think they must have had at least 40 or 50 different reporters at that time. And then they had to cut down to 15. And I'm sure that's the answer. They just don't have that.
Yeah.
And also the people who were taking paper, who thought that it's a matter of money, and, which is sad because newspapers all over.
But, and then I guess the reporters were not only required for Ventura City Council, but Oxnard and Simi and Amarillo and so forth.
Yeah, so.
We're just having a discussion about how reporters used to be at city council meetings. I used to see Wes. So.
Yeah.
That's used to cover our meeting.
Yeah.
Well,
yes.
I just, so the River Community Church, it's on the corner of Santa Clara and Colorado.
There you go.
Is that where they're warming?
That's the warming, that's the.
So at the motel, gosh, I need to get the address for the motel for you. I will find the address for the motel for you.
Well, there's Thompson in Colorado. There's the new apartment.
Santa Clara.
Oh, Santa Clara.
Yeah. See, the church
That's the
is on
actual
that
church
corner.
though, but the hotel where they have the beds, I will get that. Yeah. I just wanna, well, are there any questions online?
Thinking.
Okay. Well,
I have a question.
yes, please.
So they watch the YouTube.
There are four of us here who are not belonging to you,
Okay,
belong to.
I welcome everybody.
No, I know, but we were never told that we didn't belong in this group. And so we've been attending for a long time.
Well, no, our group is divided between the 2 districts.
Right.
And District 2 and District 3. So sometimes we have the District 3 council person speak to us and sometimes District 2. Because our area is split.
Overlap in our college, community college.
Yeah, our whole area is split. I'm not in his district either, but it's still part of the community council.
Part of the reason why that hasn't been here last year was because he was going through an election. And so, they had an agreement, he and Mike updates.
Doug would be your next.
Yes,
Okay, but Mike was always here.
yes.
Yeah.
And but he wasn't our, councilman, and we didn't know it.
Well, he was,
Okay.
they redid it. So he
Different
was,
districts.
for a long time, he was all of
Right,
ours,
right.
and then when they redid it, Doug in became, and then during the election cycle, Doug was running for election, so it really wasn't fair for him to have a public platform like this and other candidates didn't. So Mike just took over the reporting duties in the short term. Now we'll go back to having a rotation of Doug and that. Right.
I guess what I'm saying is, why didn't we know?
It's online, you have to go on yourself and say, my address is 123 Main Street, what district is that on?
Yeah, I understand that now, but we
Yeah.
knew we were.
So I think that's where I started with communications. So I totally agree with you that we need to definitely have a better way of communicating a lot of
Just a short,
Carol and then.
yeah,
Yes,
just a
please.
short one. Actually, council members they may be elected by a district, but they are responsible for the entire city.
Absolutely.
And therefore, all the residents can go to any council member. I go to Midtown a lot. And it would be behoove all of us to go just to see what's going on in the city, going like down on the beach and so.
We're just discussing that anybody can go to different city councils, community councils. It doesn't have to necessarily be a neighborhood. As a city council member, I can go to the town.
You can approach any city council person.
Yes, absolutely. Representative will sit. Yes, sir.
So you are the new PIO for Ventura City?
No.
Okay. I heard PIO somewhere.
No, I'm a PIO at another jurisdiction. Public Information Officer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you work for another city?
I work for the
city
county of Santa
PIO? I came from fire, so we always had our own PIO.
Yeah, so I'm the PIO with the Public Health Department. Santa Barbara.
Awesome.
Yeah, and the chief of
You
strategy.
said Santa Barbara?
Yes.
Oh, very good, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, I'm gonna take some of my time and give it to my colleague, if that's okay, so she can give an update on the school.
Absolutely.
But let me just end with this. I do wanna, because you just mentioned fire, I do wanna just make, just a heartfelt thank you to all of our first responders for helping out with all the fires that are going on this season. I know, again, as part of the public health department, we work hand in hand with them, I know how taxing that may be, exhausting that may be. So, thank you to all of you for. Thank you.
Yay, fire.
A chance to introduce myself to you. My name is Shannon Fredericks, and I am the Area 3 representative for Ventura Unified School District. So, yes, I actually ended up running uncontested. So, which is the best way to run. So, obviously we're coming off winter break, and so that was a nice quiet time for the district. Right now, the most pressing issue is with the Hughes fire. Obviously, it's far enough away, we're not terribly concerned about it coming close enough to close schools down in our area. However, air quality is a concern, and just be reassured that we do plan on having classes for the rest of the week. We don't foresee any closures. There could be inclement weather schedules on campuses if needed. However, any stakeholders, any parents in the community would get a call by 6:30 tomorrow morning on the robot system if their school is going to experience a closure. So far, the only school that we know of outside Ventura Unified is, I believe Piru has some closures due to the Hughes fire, but right now we're not anticipating. Yes?
Do you have masks for the kids when they go up to PE?
We will not be, if there's inclement weather, there will not be. So the students will stay indoors, they'll do lunch probably indoors and things, and it'll be site by site. Some schools, the district's large enough that some schools experienced inclement weather today while others did not. I have 2 children in the district. My youngest attends De Anza on the Avenue, and they did not have inclement weather. It was clear enough for them.
We went out this afternoon with our car.
Yes.
Parked outside, covered with ash.
Yes.
So, I mean, we could look up with some sunshine.
Yes.
I think it's really an issue of these small particulate matter that isn't particular exposed to.
Yes.
When it looks just fine.
Yeah, no, the district is working with the county and working with fire and working with public health in order to determine what's necessary. So I know some of our schools did, I believe over or on the east end, they did have inclement weather. See you next week.
Thank you.
Rock, paper, scissors?
Oh. Any questions from people in the room or comments? With that, I'll thank everybody at home and on the line and.
Do we have any other announcements, anyone?
I know we have some really great speakers coming up in the next few months, so stay tuned.
Actually, we have Monique Limon next month, which is kind of a shame that the Maple Court project is going to be the same night. So hopefully they can,
We'll just drive
go
over here
first,
from
yeah,
City Hall.
directly from City Hall. But, any other announcements, anyone?
And the date of next month's meeting?
26th of February.
February 26th.
All right.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.